Takadosh Bokeron, Masechet Batra Daf Yomi, Daf Kuf Kaf Aleph Amud Aleph 121A1. We're just starting on 120B, where it just says that where does Bet Shammai learn that you could do a farat and darim with shalosh and yotov, with three different people, three normal people, meaning that they don't have to be big rabbis. So it says by the Ben Moshe Moadei Hashem and Bnei Yisrael. Rabbi Yosef Leomer Yisrael Kamnin says Moadei Hashem Neemru. It says Moadei Hashem. Shabbat Bereshit, which means a regular Shabbat. Lo Nemra. We're not talking about that. Right? It's only Shar Moadim, not a regular Shabbat. What? Yes. But here it refers to a regular Shabbat. So he says, Ben Azai says, Moadei Hashem ne'emru afarat nedarim ra. It only says Moadei Hashem and not afarat nedarim. So he says, he had this in a Braita, but he didn't know how to explain it. Azal Batra Rav Sheshat Narda. So he went to Rav Sheshat to the city of Narda, right? So he says, he couldn't find him there. So Azal Batra Mechuza, he went to Mechuza. When he found him in Mechuza, Elmaleh, he told him, what does it mean here? Moadei Hashem ne'emru Shabbat Bereshit. What does that mean? Moadei Hashem was said, but not Shabbat Bereshit. What's the difference between Moadei Hashem and not Shabbat Bereshit? Elmaleh, he told him, Moadei Hashem tzechim kiddush bedin. Moadei Hashem, you need kiddush bedin in order to make them holy. What does that mean? We know, right, that this is Rabbi Ben Zaken spoke about this, if you remember, on Yom Tov. In order to come and to make a Yom Tov, you need the Rosh Chodesh proceeding in order to fix when it's Rosh Chodesh, and according to that Rosh Chodesh, you're going to come and you're going to make it. So how do you do that? You have a Bedin. A Bedin have to do Kiddush HaChodesh when they have the two witnesses coming and testifying about the new moon. And once they do the Kiddush HaChodesh, now you're going to come and you're going to make it holy. Meaning the Bedin have to make the Yom Tov holy. But Shabbat Bereshit does not need to be holy, right? Why? For Shabbat, you never need a Bedin. You don't need a Bedin for Shabbat, right? You need a Bedin for Yom Tov. So says the Gemara, I would have thought to say, since it's written by Moadot, Tibai Kiddush Betin Moadot, I would have thought also that you need Kiddush Betin, just like the Moadot, meaning the Shabbat, which is written in Parashat Moadot, in the middle of the Moadot, we also had Shabbat. And then Shabbat, we come down speaking about Shabbat also. So he says, I would have thought to say also, you need also Kiddush Betin. Kamash Malanda, you don't need it. So my Moadei Hashem Neemru afarat nedarim lo neemru. So what does it mean now? Moadei Hashem and not afarat nedarim. So he says, Moadei Hashem tzrichim mumchim. Hafarat nedarim and tzrichim mumchim. To do Kiddush HaChodesh, you need mumchim. You need people that are experts in order to do it. That means you can't just come take three people, we're making the Kiddush HaChodesh. Kiddush HaChodesh has to be done with mumchim, with people that are experts in halacha. Right? But he says, to do hafarat nedarim, you do not need to. So this is where Bet Shammai is learning, right, the what? That Shlosha Idiotot are able to do hafarat nedarim, because they learn it from the Pasuk. So ask the Gemara, "V'had Hashem atoktiv." Yeah, but it's written Hashem atot. Hashem atot is mashma. People that they're not stam hediotot. So Amar Rav Chasam Rabbi Yochanan Yachim Mumche. No, when it says Hashem atot, it's one person by himself. Because when you have one person by himself, he needs to be a Yachim Mumche. But when you have three people, it does not need to be Mumchim whatsoever. It could be done even right with three different people as well. Nanahatam, we learned over there. This is where, by the way, that we said that Kippur is a day of for Shidduchim as well, meaning Tu B'Av and Kippur. There was no great Yamim Tovim L'Yisrael, just like 15 B'Av and Kippur. Shebaen Benot Yisrael Yotzor B'Klei Lavan Shulin Shelo Levesh Mi She'en Lo. Because he used to go out and borrow clothing in order not to embarrass other people. And obviously it was done b'kedusha, because only somebody who was not married would go there in order to get married. Right? It wasn't just stam that people would come and Shuf Einik, they wanted to start singing things. You understand? No, it was mamash. They would come and they would get a shidduch, and that was when they did it. So he says, Bishlam Yom Kippurim. I understand. Yom Slicha Mechila. Yom Shenitem Luchot Achronot. Look, it's a day of atonement. It's a day of that they were given Luchot Achronot. Chamisha Zabav. What's Chamisha Zabav now? What's Tu B'Av? So Amar Rav Yudah Mar Shmuel says, Shehutru Shvatim Levoz V'zeh. That was the day that they were permitted to get married to within each other, which means that once upon a time it was going to be. No, there's no slicha on it. עם כל הבלגן שלפני זה לא היו מותרים חדשים, נכון? זה מה שאני מסביר. יפה, אז עכשיו מותרים. זה מה שאני מסביר. So he comes and he says, right, the simcha was that beforehand, right, it was going to be an isur of bat yoresh nachala to get married to another, right, another tribe, and now all of a sudden it's going to become permitted. So says the Gemara, Mike Darush, what was the drasha to come and to say that the isur was only chal on that generation, not on any other generation? Ze adavar. Remember, we already learned that whenever it says Zad Davar, it's only for this generation, not for the other generations. So says the Gemara, another reason. It's not only just that the Shvatim were permitted to get married to each other, also Shevet Binyamin was permitted to get married to each other. Why? Because this was after Pilegesh Begiva. Remember, after Pilegesh Begiva, right? What happened is that when the Shevet Binyamin came and they caused the entire problem of Pilegesh Begiva, which was basically, the entire concept of Mishkav Zachar, and then after Mishkav Zachar, then they went and they killed her. There was a whole thing. So therefore he cut her up and he sent her to all the different pieces. He sent her to all the different tribes. They went and they wanted to get all the people that were involved. They didn't want to give them over. There was a civil war. They killed the majority of Binyamin. So it says, Dichtiv, the Ish Yisrael nishba b'mitzvah lemor, Ish mimenu litem bito leBinyamin liisha. Nobody gave their daughters to Binyamin. So imagine Binyamin was going to be completely wiped out. So it says the Gemara, my darush, what's the drasha? It says, Ish mimenu litem mimenu velo mimbanenu, which means Albanenu was never the Shavua, and therefore it was only their daughters that was the Isur, right? Latet binotehem l'Shevet Binyamin. That means they couldn't give their own daughters to Shevet Binyamin, but their sons could, because the sons, they become, right, their own Shevet, obviously, okay? So says the Gemara, Rav Dimi bar Yosef Amar Nachman, says Rav Dimi bar Yosef Nachman, a third reason now, Yom shekalu b'metem midbar. You know what else happened on, that means one more time, you have two different reasons until now on Tu B'Av. Whether it's because now it's permitted for all the Shvatim to get married within each other. Number two, Binyamin was permitted to come into the Kahal. Number three, Metem Midbar stopped dying. The Amar more says, Ad shelo kalu Metem Midbar, until the Metem Midbar didn't stop dying, Kuf Kafal Avamubet 121b, Lo ya dibur Moshe, right? There was never the same speech with Moshe, which means that the dibur was never with Moshe by himself. Shneimar vahika shatamu kol anshe bin chamal umikar v'ham v'samich lei v'diber elai Hashem elai lemor. Elai ya dibur. It was only to him. Right, so that's a third reason. So what happened? The Midbar, the people that were in the desert, they stopped dying on Tu B'Av. Fourth reason, Ula Amar, Yom Shebitel Bo Hoshea Ben Allah, right? But the Sot Shoshiv Yerovam El Devarim Ala Drachim Shelo Yalu Yisrael Regel. What does that mean? We know that Hoshea Ben Elah was the Melech Israel, and this Melech Israel, right? He was actually the last Melech of the Aseret HaShvatim. Okay, so he says over here, what happened was that he went and he destroyed, right, all the Shomrim that Yerovam ben Nevat had. Remember that Bnei Yisrael, whenever they used to do Aliyah Regel, which was Shalosh Regalim, they used to come there. Who was the only one allowed to sit in the Bet HaMikdash? A king from Yehuda, right? So therefore, since only a king from Yehuda would be able to sit there, imagine you have a king over the 10 tribes. He's there in the Bet HaMikdash, and he's not allowed to sit. And all of a sudden, you have the king of the two tribes, which was going to be Binyamin and Yehuda. And all of a sudden, he comes, sits down, he gets all the kavod. So for them, it was embarrassment. So what did they do? They went and they started with Yerovam and Nevat, and then it continued all the way through that they put Shomrim, but they didn't allow them to do Aliyah Regel. They didn't allow them to do Aliyah Regel. Now, by not allowing them to do it, they wouldn't come to the Bet HaMikdash, and then they wouldn't see that. So therefore, there's no problems with them not sitting down in the Bet HaMikdash. But once he came and he destroyed them and he stopped it on Tu B'Av. Since he stopped it on Tu B'Av, they made a big party. Right? What does that mean? It became a Yom Tov. Reason number five, of Matan Amar, Yom Shenitnu Harugei Betar Lekvura. Harugei Betar, remember during the Bet HaMikdash, when it was destroyed, right, the people of Betar were killed afterwards, and they were given to be buried. That day was Tu B'Av. Damar Matra, Oto Yom Shenitnu Harugei Betar Lekvura, Tiktu B'Av Atov Mativ. They instituted the Beracha, the fourth blessing of Birkat Hamazon, which is Atov Mativ. Atov, Shelo Yisrichu, that their corpse did not, Masriach didn't get rotten. Mativ Shenitnu Lekvura, and Mativ, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them to be buried. Sixth reason, and this is the last reason. It's the last day they used to do, right? Meaning, if you guys remember when we learned Tanit, we learned which days did they used to do the cutting of the wood. So he says the last day was, right, Tu B'Av. The Tanya Reb Eliezer Gadol Omer, the sun was not strong anymore, and then they wouldn't cut the wood for the manacham. That was the day that they used to break, like, the axe. But since they didn't need the wood anymore, so it's Keilu was called the day of the breaking of the axe. Right? What does that mean? From then onwards, whoever is going to learn more Torah in the nighttime, he's going to get more long life. Because now, since it's now you've got longer days, so now you learn more Torah, you're going to get longer life. But she'eno mosif, right? If you're not going to be mosif, right? He says, she'eno mosif yasif. Close the door, please. Yeah, he says she'eno mosif yasif. What does that mean? If you're not going to add on, right, to the days of the learning of the Torah, yasif. What is yasif? My yasif. And Rabbi Yosef said, tikbrei meh. right? His mother will bury him, which means that he will die earlier than the proper time. Okay, fine. We learned to the Braita. Shiva kiplu et kol haolam kulo. There were 7 tzaddikim that their days they covered like the entire Briat Olam until then. Metushelach ra Adam Shem ra Metushelach. What does that mean? We know that the Metushelach he saw Adam Rishon. Okay, this is the Braita actually says it. He says here the Braita is talking about that each one saw Kodmo. So he says that he was this Talmid. So Metushelach was the Talmid of Adam Rishon. Here it says Mecheshbon Shnot Adorot Rishon LeBriat Haolam. It says Midbarer Metushelach was Dor Shmini, was the 8th generation. He was nolad when Adam Rishon was 687. So it comes out that Shebimoto Shel Adam Rishon, which was 930, Metushelach was 243 years old. Okay, so it says here Shem he saw Metushelach. Okay, so Metushelach died 7 days before the beginning of the Mabul, because if you remember, it was pushed off for 7 days because it was the Avelut of Metushelach, right? That's what they learn in the Pasuk. Okay, fine. So it says here, so it comes out that Shem was 98 when Metushelach passed away. Okay, fine. So that's 98. Yaakov, he saw Shem, right? He learned in the yeshiva of Shem Ve'evet. So here it says in 17, Shem lived 500 years after Sholidat HaPachshad Beno. Now he says over here, it comes out that Avraham nolad 290 years after Lidat HaPachshad. So when Avraham was 100 years old, he had Yitzchak. Yitzchak was 60 when he had Yaakov. So it comes out that Yaakov was born 450 years after HaPachshad. So therefore he was 50 years old when Shem died. Okay, so again, one more time, he was 50 years old when Shem died. So it comes out that when his mother went to Shem, it was to Shem Ve'evet. What? Yaakov was 50 years old when Shem died. So what happened was that the yeshiva of Shem Ve'evet, Rivka went to the yeshiva of Shem Ve'evet, right? Because this was when they were born, right? But when Yaakov Avinu already went to the yeshiva, right, when he had to run away, how old was he? How old was he when he went to the yeshiva? Yes, 63. He was 63, right? So what happened was that since he was 63, so therefore what happened is that he went to the yeshiva of Ever because Shem already passed away. Remember, it was only the first 50 years. So he was Mishamesh at Shem, but really when he went later on to the yeshiva and he stayed there for 14 years, that was the yeshiva of Ever by itself. It wasn't anymore the yeshiva of Shem. Okay? So here it says, Ra'ah et Yaakov. Amram, the father of Moshe, he saw Yaakov Avinu. He says there's no chacha, but it's מאוד mistaber. Because he says, because Yaakov Avinu went down and he lived there for 17 years, Kabel Levi was also Yeridei Mitzrayim, and Amram was the oldest son. So obviously he had a minimum of 17 years, right? So that's going to be Amram to Yaakov. Achia Shiloni, okay, Achia Shiloni came from Shiloh, so he comes and he actually saw Amram. And Eliyahu Navi, he saw Achia Shiloni, but Daim Kayam. Yeah, and he's still alive. What does that mean? Because Eliyahu Navi never actually died. So it comes out that Kol Yemot HaOlam Mibriyato Ad Hayom are in these 7 tzaddikim. So with these 7 tzaddikim, you have the entire world. You have from Adam Rishon to Metushelach, Metushelach Shem, Shem Yaakov, Yaakov to Amram, Amram to Achia Shiloni, right? And Achia Shiloni to Eliyahu Navi, and Eliyahu Navi is still alive. Fine. The Gemara is going to ask, Achia Shiloni ra'at Amram? Are you going to tell me Achia Shiloni saw Amram? How could that be? Right? We know that Amram was from Yotzei Mitzrayim. Achia Shiloni hayam Yotzei Mitzrayim. So therefore he says Amram was no lam Mitzrayim, he met Mitzrayim. He says, you know that Shevet Levi, they never had the Gezerah, meaning that they never died, right? Because they never were obligated to die. So therefore, they didn't die in the desert. So that means the only ones that died in the desert were not from Shevet Levi. Okay? It says in Pasuk, meaning, only the ones that they had from 20 to 60, they died in the desert. The Levi'im was 30 to 50, except for they didn't die in the desert. So that's why Amram, it could be that he never died in the desert. Whoever said that he died in the desert. So says the Gemara, are you going to tell me the other Shvatim, nobody went to Eretz Yisrael? They didn't die until they went into Eretz Yisrael. It says, Bi-36. But rather it's Yaimim Menashe, which is Shekul, Kirubash Sanhedrin, of the 70 Sanhedrin. So it comes out that there were other Bnei Shvatim that also came into Eretz Yisrael. So says the Gemara. Remember that the Gezerah was only between 20 and 60. Anybody that was younger than 20, so you had a 19-year-old, he came out of Mitzrayim, but he didn't die in the desert. He came into Eretz Yisrael. You had a 61-year-old. He came out of Mitzrayim. He lived there for the 40 years. He came into Eretz Yisrael because the Gezerah was dafka only from 20 to 60 and not more than that. לא על פחות מנסים דכתיב, מבנסים שלנו מעלה. ולא על יתר במנסים גמר, ומעלה ומעלה מהערכים. They learn it from גזירה שווה, from הערכים. Just like over there, it's מבין 60 כפחות מבין 20. That means above 60 and below 20 is the same הלכה. סלם שוס, זה בדיוק אותו דבר. גם כן here, מבין 60 כפחות מבין 60. בין 20. Above 60 and below 20 is the exact same thing. So therefore, when it says, right, that in this desert they're going to fall the corpse, that's only going to be from the age of 20 to 60. So they asked another question. Was Eretz Yisrael divided amongst the Shvatim, or was it divided amongst the people? Meaning, do you look at every single shevet, so you just take a shevet, or do you go according to the amount of people, shaveh? So that's what the Gemara is going to speak about tomorrow.